Hello and welcome to Rant class. Today I'm going to talk about bias, what bias is, and how we form our bias and worldview. So we all have bias in some way or form, and you might not be aware of actually that it's affecting your daily life, but it's something that you have. And as soon as you become aware of it, you can begin to change it and begin to become more open-minded. So, is there something in this world that is free of bias? Well, yes, there is some stuff that is free of bias, like data and facts, if they're collected in the right way. If they're not collected by looking for something with a biased view from the start, but in a neutral way. So, these facts can still be used with aware of bias. Like back during World War II, Nazi Germany used the data of the cost of people with mental handicaps, what it cost the government per patient per day, and they used that in math to try and teach the children why it was a good idea to get rid of them because it would save a lot of money. So what they did were they pushed their agenda, their bias into these facts, and the facts didn't say that they were bad. The facts was just stating what the cost was, and that is bias free. But people can use that data to support their point of view, their worldview, from their bias if they want to use it against a certain ethnicity, race, something like that. And it's something you can see from time to time in the news. And if you have no neutral news where you live, then you can see it every day because there's often two poles in the news then. Like USA, for example, here, they have Fox News and they have CNN, both in different sides of the democratic spectrum. But when the president does something in the USA, depending on who is sitting, one side will say, well, this data shows he's a moron, or this data shows something bad, where the other side will say, well, this shows that he's done something good and something great. And if you're not aware of the bias that is being pushed by the news, you might not think about it and you might not actually find the real truth unless you find some either neutral news sources or you actually watch both of the news, and then from what is the same data in both, you then draw a truth out of that. But it can be a real danger because at times people forget that every time someone tells you something, they are telling it from their point of view by using their bias, their worldview. And if you don't remember that, you might begin to question things that they say or do. And it's kind of bad because as soon as you begin to think that everyone is against you, everyone is doing something against you, then you won't listen to what they're saying. And that is harmful in the end because that means that debates die out and we can't evolve as humans because we keep hitting this wall of people who live in a worldview where everything you say because you're on a different side is wrong. Even though you might be showing neutral data, they still think it's wrong because they believe that you're pushing your agenda onto them. So it's really something we have to be aware of when we are talking and when we are showing data so everyone can see the same data in the same way and form. Since that is how we actually learn about the other side is by looking at the data and see what do they get out of it and what do we get out of it, and then try and learn from each other. And while being open-minded, we also don't rush into conclusions and predetermination mindsets that we often see in politics and worldviews today. But how does this worldview and bias actually form to begin with? Well, as soon as you're born, we will begin to imprint it in you. All adults around you and children around you will begin to imprint it on you, um, in school, at home, at a hobby or something like that. Because every time an adult says something and you take it in, some of it might stick and become part of the way you see life and how you see your classmates, your parents, and stuff like that. And it begins to shape the person that you are and your mindset, saying your bias, worldview. Um, so it's something we have to be aware of because when we're actually teaching kids in school, we have to be neutral. And data actually shows that if a kid is in school and in that class there is people from different faiths, ethnicities, and stuff like that, they will become more open-minded in the end. They will become less biased against those types of people because they know some of those people. There can be some way to destroy that though, and it's sadly seen at times that when the kids then get home, they get home to a place where the adults talk badly about the teachers, the students, or something like that. And then because they're the parents, the kids listen more to them, and the bias actually becomes easier to take in if it's from a parent. So as an adult, we have to remember to be neutral and show more points of view so the kids can make up their own mind about the world when they're ready to do that, instead of forcing our ideas down into their throats. And it can be hard. As a teacher, I have to, at least where I live, teach neutrally. I can't go in and say, well, I think you should all vote for these guys because I think they're great. I have to present the entire side from both sides so the children can make up their own mind. I can't be biased. And I really do hope that all schools end up with that, where we don't have this bias against anything, where we actually have a broad picture of the world and our own country, so we can form a good idea of everything and have an open mindset instead of having it narrowed in by adults around us and schools. And one of the reasons it's so important is how we see the world, how our worldview and our bias is formed, is also how we interact with the world. If we have a set bias against another group of people, we will always be aware of that. We will always fear them or something like that. And it's not healthy. We should have an open mind where we actually look at people and just see people, and then we judge them for what they do. And that is where news, again, is so important. Because if you take news from different news sources, you will get a broader picture and your bias won't be narrowed in. So you will begin to see the world in a different view. And some of the bias or prejudgments you had before might go away because you find out, well, maybe this is not the whole truth. And it's something that we need to do so we again judge people on what they do instead of how they look, how they talk, what faith they are, and what gender they are. And one of the things that is happening right now, again, and has been happening a lot past few years, is this look at racism across the world. And it's something that have changed some people's point of view on how other people live their life. Other people have uh, sadly become more racist, and that is not great because they were shown a bias where it was okay to do that. But almost no, not a day goes by where you don't hear about some minority somewhere being mishandled by police or by the country or something like that, because the bias against those people is made even people who should be neutral look at them with another point of view instead of a neutral view. So again, it's important to have people who are open-minded, who look at this in a broader picture, so we don't judge people preempty. We have to talk to them. We have to see what they do before we judge them. And I know I've said that a few times already, but it's really one of the points I'm trying to get through here, no matter what. But it can be hard to have an open mind because if you have this worldview, if you have this have been force-fed this bias from the news in a long time, you will begin to believe it so hardly that if someone tries to show you some other facts than what you're used to seeing, you just say, no, that can't be true, and you refuse it. And it can take a long time to actually chip that away. So it's something we have to be aware of from when we are kids, that we let people grow up with an open mind, show them the facts from all sides of history and school and life, so they don't have this predetermined notion of these people are bad, these people are good, this country is good, this country is bad, and stuff like that. And if you're like, I don't see a problem in schools shoving a bias or something into school, well, here is a sad tale again from World War II. During World War II, the Holocaust were a thing, and sadly, a lot of people died. And a few years ago, there was a documentary where they actually found a guard from one of the camps, and he didn't regret a thing because he was still in this bias where he was doing the right thing to save his country, to save the world. So he had no regret. And it's just crazy to see that an old man still had the same worldview that he was force fed as a teen over years in school and by movies and posters. So from that tale, we need to learn that we need to enable kids to have an open point of view. They have to be able to choose for themselves what to do, what to feel, what to believe, so we don't force a bias and worldview into them. They have to be able to form their own. And then we have to help them finding a bias and mindset that is not hurtful or harmful to other people. And I know some people will say, well, I find what these people are doing harmful and find this hurtful and so forth. There's always someone feeling hurt and harmed out there. But we have to try to learn in a neutral bias way so they can make their own decisions. Because most kids actually do make great decisions when given the chance. Because we all learn empathy. We all have it in us, almost all of us. And when it's given a chance to grow, it will, in the end, shine more than some force-fed bias. But if you are force-fed a harmful bias all life and you keep hearing it over and over again, it will, in the end, remove the empathy from you and instead make you a mindless drone that only follows what other people are telling you to do. And that is why I'm talking about this, because we need to learn from it. We need to begin to think about how we see the news. What side am I on? What do I think when I see other people? What do they think when they see me? So we can begin to talk about it, so we can begin to think about it, so we can begin to act upon it, so we can make a better world. And that is all I'm trying. I'm not trying to force my beliefs on anyone in this podcast episode. And actually, none of my episodes I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to, with an open mind, talk about something. It might be from my point of view, some of it, because it's very personal. But most of it, I try to do it in a neutral way, where I just relay the world to you so you can judge on your own what I'm saying is okay, if it's mad, or if I'm just a rambling nuts who have a microphone. But whatever you believe, I do hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you liked it, feel free to listen to all my other episodes. Join me on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Patreon. You can find me by just Googling Rand class, and it would be nice to see some people there. It's a bit bare at the moment. So I hope that everyone have a nice day and you learned a bit from what I just said. And again, have a very nice day. Bye.